Hi, so today I'll be showing you if statements and booleans, and some weird things about initializing variables inside of if statements. So let's get started. So first thing we have to do is make a class, and I've already made a class, so you have to go right click and you can click new class, and you click that. You just have to give it a name, and you hit OK, and it'll make a little box like this. So click on this one side. Now first thing we have to do is we have to make our main method. So you have to go our public in static read name, and this is our main method, and string args. Okay, and then we'll close this up, and we'll like this. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Okay, like that. Okay, now that's it. Now, first thing we have to do is we have to make a Boolean variable. So to do that, we give it a type. So type Boolean, and we have to set it equal to something, or well, we have to give it a name. So we'll call it Boolean B, and we can initialize it to true. So what booleans are they're a variable that store true or false questions. So it can either be storing true or it can either be storing false. So we could set this to false as well. So we can just type the word false, and then that would this would now be false. Also, you can do arguments in them like this. So let's make some ints. X equals 5 and int z equals 7. Okay, so and now we could compare these in here. So we could do if 5 is less than 7, and that would be a true statement. So this value of b would be true. And let's just print that out and show that. So to do that, we go system out and we'll and switch to some quotations, and we'll go like that. Or actually, no, we don't need quotations. We can print out the value directly. So if we put b in there, it will print out either true or false. So we just have to compile it. Using a semicolon. This will compile it again. Compile no syntax errors. Then we want to right click on this, and we want to hit void string args. Be okay. And as you can see, it prints out the value true. Because 5 is less than 7. Now if we went like this back into here, and we switched it around, and it is 7 is less, and we hit compile, and we run it, as you can see, it prints out false. So booleans can be useful. Well, it'll be apparent why booleans are useful when we start moving into Greenfoot, which is a fun development environment where you can actually start making your own little games and stuff like that, and it's really cool. So I'll move our Java tutorials into that eventually, but for now, you should just know these. So we can compare. We can set the variables to an argument in here, and we can also do some stuff with if statements. So what an if statement is, it tests if something is true. So if we go if like this, and like this. So we'll do 5. Or actually, no, let's actually just over this. Well, let's say if x is less than 7. Okay, so we can do it that way, and we'll do, if that works, we'll do system.out.print, and we'll go like that, and print out hi. Okay, so if this is true, it'll print out some hi for us. So it prints out. Oh yeah, so it didn't print out hi, and it just printed out this thing down here, the value of b. So you can control if statements with arguments like this, but you could also control them with Boolean variables. So you could put b in there, and all you have to do is put b in there, and you hit compile, and you run this, and it prints out false. But let's make this statement true now. So we'll go like this, and we'll hit compile, we'll minimize it, we'll go like this. Okay, so it prints out hi and true. So again, I'll say it again. If statements can take in arguments, and it based on the result of that argument, if it's true or false, it will perform the operation inside of it. So let's say if we do, if 100 is less than 1,000. Okay, so I'll show you some weird little quirk with initializing variables inside of conditional statements. So like conditional statement is like what we have here. Like if statements are considered conditional statements, for loops and while loops are considered conditional statements. Which I haven't covered loops yet, but I'm going to do in the next tutorial. I just wanted to get booleans and if statements done first because they're simpler. But so now if we try and compile this, it will compile no syntax errors, and we're fine. So we've declared a variable up here, y. We've declared y. We've initialized it in this if statement. So let's try and see what happens if we try and use it now. So if we go down here and we try and use it, it says variable may not have been initialized. So since this is a false statement, it'll never get initialized. So you can't print out, you can't have an uninitialized variable. It won't work. But also another thing, if this was true, it would work. But most of the time, these values could be inputted from could be affected from an outside source. So the compiler won't know if it will result in true or not. So it'll give you that error. So that will apply to all conditional statements, loops, and stuff like that. So if you're getting a strange error like that, yeah, it might be because it's being initialized inside of an if statement or a loop. But to fix this, we just can initialize it outside of a loop. So we can set it. Set it to 0 or something, and it'll run perfectly. And if we compile this, and we go here, as you'll see, it will print out the value 0. And if we change this statement here to true, so if 100 is less than 1,000, compile it, and we go with doots. Yep, it prints out hi, and then it prints out 10. So works perfectly. But that's just one little strange thing you might encounter. So yeah. Now let me show you else. So I'll show you else. So what happens if this isn't true? Will it do then? So that's what an else is. Okay, so in order to make an else statement, you just type the word else, and then you put the curly braces, and then so if this turns out to be false, this code will run. So we'll just copy this from here. Control V, and we'll say bye. Okay, so we'll go like that, and we'll set this to, so if this condition up here turns out to be false, it'll run this, and if it's true, it will run this code. And if we didn't have this at all, it would just do nothing. So let's do this. So since it's true right now, it'll run the first line, so let's make this false. So we'll do like that. Okay, we'll compile it. And we'll do this. And boom, it prints out bye and it prints out 0. Because that variable was never set to 10. Okay, so that's all you need to know right now for booleans and if statements. But like, just going it over again, this up here, so if this is true, then it'll do the code in this area, and if it's false, it'll run an else statement, and if we don't have an else, then it will just do nothing. But also another thing, if we get rid of the if statement and just have this else statement, it won't work. It won't allow us to do that. So if we just go like this, and if you do 2 dashes, that just will make Java, the compiler, ignore the line of code, and that's used for making like comments and stuff. But see, it'll say else without an if, and that you can't have that. So let's get that if statement back in there, so the code will work. And yeah. Okay, so go back. Okay, so anyways, that's all for booleans and if statements. The next tutorial is going to be for loops, and that's all.